The Mode Envoy is a 65% keyboard from Mode Designs that I think is a pretty interesting looking keyboard at first glance. If you're watching this video now, you are maybe thinking of picking one up for yourself, or you're just getting into the mechanical keyboard hobby and you're just like looking at what kind of keyboards there are. Now, if you've already seen a few videos, you might have been recommended this video via the YouTube algorithm, in which case I apologize for the extremely low quality bar of this video, but I'm doing my best here. So in this video, we're going to do a quick build, or at least I hope it's going to be a quick build of the Mode Envoy, just to see what it's like to actually build the keyboard, and then some impressions, some thoughts, and the typing test. So let's get to it. All right, so inside your carrying case, you're going to get your keyboard chassis. You will get your weight and your accent piece. Over here, you're going to get pouches which contain your rubber parts. So this is like your mounting blocks and your rubber feet. You will get your fasteners, all the screws you need to put the thing together, and your daughter board. Over on this side, you're going to get your stabilizers if you purchase them separately. You will also get a Mode branded switch and keycap puller and a Mode branded driver. Over here is going to be your plate or your plates if you purchase more than one. And lastly will be your PCB. The foam kit for the Envoy is a separate purchase and comes in this paper envelope. The foam kit will include a PE sheet that goes on top of your PCB, as well as a piece of foam that goes between your plate and your PCB, and lastly a case foam which goes just in the bottom of your case when you go screw the whole thing together. You can use all three of these pieces, or just some of them, or I guess none of them. All depends on your preference. The first thing we want to do is grab our rubber parts pouch here, and we're going to look for the bottom feet. Next, you want to grab the feet for your weight. Oh, this is shrink wrapped. I thought it was like a plastic peel, but it is shrink wrap. Ooh. This is the multicolor weight, and it is a little more expensive compared to some of the other weight options, but damn. It looks pretty good. All right, so just while supporting the weight on the back, just flip it over, and now we can screw our weight in. All right, at this point, you might want to go and separate your screws so you can have them just at the ready. So inside the pouch of your fasteners, you're going to get 7 of these button head fasteners. You only need 6 of them, so you get 1 extra. These are going to be for your weight and your accent piece. You will get 5 of these M2x3 like flat top socket head screws. These are going to be for your daughter board. Again, you only need 4, but you get an extra. 5 of these M2x5 fasteners for your plate and PCB assembly. And lastly, you're going to get 2 of these M2x9 fasteners with like a rubber O-ring on these. This is going to be just to secure your plate and PCB assembly to your case. All right, let's go ahead and start screwing in our weight. Next up, accent piece. For my accent piece, I also got the multicolor just because, I don't know, I guess I just really like how it looks. I know I'm honestly, realistically never going to see it when it's built, but I know it's there and that's good enough for me. All right, and that should be your accent piece and your weight. I kind of really like how that looks. Now we're going to screw in our daughter board. Right, very carefully align your JST connector, then lay it face down like that. All right, now that that's screwed in, let's put this aside for now, as we're going to start working on the plate and PCB assembly. All right, at this point, if you want to use the PE sheet from the foam kit, you want to put that on top right now. It should be fairly apparent which way it goes, but just in case you're not sure, there are like cutouts here for the standoff, so those line up perfectly just like that, and also keep the sheet secure as you're working on it. For this build, I'm actually not going to use this sheet. but I guess if I change my mind, I can always just open the keyboard up and put it on later. Now this is the point during your build where you're going to need to put on your stabilizers. Again, if you do not have your own set of stabilizers laying around, you can purchase them from Mode when you purchase your Envoy. If this is your first build and you're a little bit intimidated by the idea of having to put together stabilizers, it's not that bad. Really quickly, what you get inside this bag is you get some like washers, you get your fasteners, your stabilizer housings, and your wires. If you haven't put that many stabilizers together before and you're kind of not sure how to do it, your inner housing has 2 holes on one side, and that's going to be the side that faces outwards to where the wire clips in. So looking at your outer housing, you can see that on this end here, this is where your gold wire, or like whatever color wire I guess, will clip into, and the 2 holes will face that side. You want to put them together just like that. And then when you're putting the wire through, the wire goes through all the way into the bottom hole, just like that, and then should be able to move up and down. And then just clip it in to the front like that. You'll hear a satisfying click, and that's how you know that that side's good. Now, I highly recommend that you actually lube your stabilizers. Don't just put them together dry and then put them on your PCB. I don't think you'll have a satisfying typing experience that way, and you will probably not be very happy with your keyboard. Before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and I will lube the housings for my stabilizers. On a 65% layout like this, you're going to need 4 different pairs of stabilizers. You will need one for your left shift, you'll need a longer set for your spacebar, and then another 2 for your backspace and your enter key. Right, one thing to mention about your stabilizer kit, if you weren't sure, is you're going to get 2 different sizes of wires for spacebars. This shorter one is 6.25 units, which I believe is like the standard for most keyboards. Probably you're using a 6.25 unit spacebar already. This is 7 units, which is a little bit more uncommon. It's for stuff like Win keyless layouts or whatever. Obviously, before you start lubing, you should know which spacebar size you're using, but since I'm going with the standard 6.25 unit, I'm just going to put this back in the bag. Okay, now that our stabilizers are all lubed, we can go ahead and start putting them onto our PCB. This is the hot swap PCB. I don't have a soldering iron, and I think I'm too lazy to solder. That being said, if you do have a soldering iron and you don't mind soldering, soldering does actually open you up to a lot more different types of keyboards, so it is a skill that you might want to pick up if you're going to be in this hobby for a long time. Alright, while we're here, let's go ahead and take off our standoff protectors. There's like a little film. Oh yeah, one thing to mention is you will notice that a few of these hot swap sockets are inverted, such as caps lock here, and then our row 4 down here. Now this is just to support different layouts, so you do have the flexibility. So while you are putting your switches in and you notice maybe your caps don't fit, just double check that you didn't accidentally use the wrong socket when you were putting your switch in. Alright, just remember when you're putting in your stabilizers, the larger hole in the PCB, that's for the plastic end that kind of hooks in, and then you will just push it down flat, and then you screw in your stabilizer like that. Alright, when screwing in your stabilizers, just remember not to over tighten, and just double check that your stabilizer is actually flush to the PCB. It's not sticking out or anything like that. Alright, now that our stabilizers are on our PCB, at this point, if you want to add the optional foam that goes between the plate and the PCB, you want to throw it on now. I actually will be using this foam just to get a little bit of a more muted sound signature. While placing your foam onto the PCB, just make sure the standoff cutouts are aligned and the foam is perfectly seated around each of these standoffs here. Then you want to grab your plate. I picked up 2 plates. I got the FR4, and I also got a carbon fiber plate. Now, since I've actually never used a carbon fiber plate before, I was curious, and I want to try it out. So this is the plate that I'm going to go with for my build here. All right, now this is the part of the build where I kind of ran into a little bit of a problem. Now, I was planning on building out the Mode Envoy with a set of switches and keycaps that would come separately. Now, the problem is those switches and keycaps are a group buy, and if you have any experience with group buys, you'll know that they often are delayed, and they're delayed. So now I have to be like some kind of weird like mechanical keyboard raccoon, and I have to dig through my closet just to find some parts that I can use to finish this build instead of like leaving this keyboard like half finished for like months or whatever. So I don't know, whatever. All right, so the switches we're going with are the Moondrop Lunalight switches that I used in a previous keyboard build. Start by putting switches in each of the 4 corners here, and that'll give your plate and PCB assembly a little bit of stabilization as you're working on it. Once those are in, just put in the rest of your switches. All right, now let's put our mounting blocks into the case. Now the Mode Envoy comes with 2 different types of mounting blocks. We have these black mounting blocks here, and that'll give your keyboard a little bit of a firmer typing experience. It doesn't flex quite as much. And then we have these beige looking ones. This is what Mode calls the lattice mount blocks. You can see how they're a little bit porous. That'll give your keyboard a little bit more flex. There's 6 mounting blocks to put into the case, and once those are in, just do a quick check to make sure they're all seated properly inside your case. At this point, if you're gonna wanna use the optional case foam, you wanna drop that in right now. Next is just to connect the daughter board JST cable to your PCB. Be really careful not to bend the pins and make sure that's going in straight. And then just carefully lay your PCB and plate assembly into the case for the bottom first. Use your last 2 retaining screws. Now don't screw these in too tightly, as that'll actually give your keyboard a little bit of flex. Lastly, is just to throw on your keycap. So we're going to be using GMK Laser in the Synthwave colorway, because that's kind of all that I had lying around. All right, and this is it. This is the finished keyboard, at least the finished keyboard for now. Like I said, I am waiting for some switches and some caps that'll come in a few months. So I guess I'll do like another video at that time when they come in. So I don't know, I guess subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Overall, I think building the Envoy has been a pretty pleasurable experience. I haven't built that many keyboards like as of right now, but for sure I would say the Envoy is probably the easiest to build. They make it really easy just because there aren't that many screws to deal with. And Mode does give you pretty much everything you need to build the keyboard right away. You don't even need like your own driver set. They just give you the bits and a driver like included in the package. I do wish that they included the foam kit just by default, and maybe also stabilizers. Now I understand if you have been in the hobby for quite a while, you might already have a set of stabs that you want to use, or you just have a set lying around or whatever. But if you're brand new to the hobby, I can understand how you might accidentally check out from Mode without adding a set of stabs to your order, in which case you'd have to go and run out and try to find like a set of stabilizers so you can finish your keyboard build. They don't include switches, caps, and I guess lube, but that's pretty understandable. If you're going to be building a custom keyboard, you're probably going to be sourcing those separately anyway, so that's not too big of a deal. Just as a first impression, it's got a really nice finish. Again, I got this in the Mirage, and it's got a nice kind of grayish, bluish kind of hue to it, which I really do like. It's got a lot of flex to it. So you can see here, like just how much flex this keyboard has. Like it's a flexy boy. Just pushing on the corners, you can just see how much the plate and PCB assembly moves here. The multicolor weight definitely is multicolor. Now the effect is kind of difficult to capture on camera, but you can see how it shifts between like purple and then kind of blue, but there's also this orange hue mixed in there as well. Now, ultimately, yeah, it's going to be face down on your desk. You're not going to see it all that often unless you're like displaying it or whatever. Even the accent is facing away from you, so you don't really see it. but it is still there. And I think when it comes to building a keyboard that's like yours, it's important to kind of customize it in a way that you're happy with, even if you don't really see the accent all that much. The case has a really nice feel to it, but if I did have to fault it for one thing, it's just that it's kind of smudge prone. Like I've already had to wipe it down a few times already just to capture some of the shots on camera. But if you don't care, I guess, or you're going to be cleaning your keyboard often, then I guess you don't need to worry too much about it. But it is something to be aware of, especially if you have like, I don't know, greasy hands or something like that. So I do recommend, if you're new to the hobby and are not quite sure what you like, to pick up a couple plate options when you're checking out. If you're coming from maybe like pre-built keyboards, you might be used to typing on like an aluminum plate. So I would recommend checking out with like one plate that you're familiar with, like aluminum, and then getting another plate that you want to experiment with. So this could be palm, Evra4, or in my case, carbon fiber. And in that way, if you want to change things up or you're just not quite happy with the sound you're getting, you already have another plate that you can switch to and you don't have to like put in another order or something like that. Okay, do I recommend the Mode Envoy? Yes and no. I would say if you are brand new to the hobby and you're not quite sure what to get, I think the Mode Envoy in terms of price is a little bit daunting at first to some newcomers. And admittedly, it can seem like a lot. That being said, you do get a lot of nice to haves for that price. Like for example, the fact that you get the driver bits and you get the drivers, and the build experience itself is pretty simple when it comes to custom keyboards. And I think that's really, really important, especially to newcomers to the hobby. Like if you are, let's say you're building your first keyboard. If you don't have a good time with the build experience, you might not want to continue to experiment with keyboards. So the whole experience of building out your first keyboard is really important, I think. That being said, if you just want a 65% keyboard, there are a lot of alternatives for not that much money. You have some options from, like Canon keys or KBD fans. So it wouldn't hurt to do a little bit of research to see what you might be okay with when it comes to feature set and just how it is to build that keyboard. So like look up some build guides or look up some other reviews and see what it's like to build into those keyboards. But if you're okay with spending the money and you just really like how the Mode Envoy looks or how it sounds, then yeah, it's a good keyboard. The build experience was really nice. It's got a great finish. It's got a good sound. So I think if you're looking for a keyboard to put on your desk, I think you'd be pretty happy with this. But yeah, I guess that's going to do it for now. So again, I will do a typing test just at the very end of the video. So if you want to see that or hear that, it'll be there. I don't make that many mechanical keyboard related videos. I just make a bunch of random stuff on this channel. So I guess if you're curious about, I don't know, like life in Japan or something like that, then feel free to poke around. Maybe you might like what you find. And then maybe if you want to sub, that would be appreciated. I can't guarantee any kind of good quality bar, but I don't know. Hopefully you might like what you see. If you have a Mode Envoy yourself or you have a similar 65% keyboard, let me know what you thought down in the comments. But in any case, thanks a lot for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a fantastic day. And I will see you next time. Take care.